Okay, so this is the SISIS, an agricultural stroke horticultural tractor unit, and this is the specially adapted Overland edition. We've adapted this to suit the purpose of drawing a trailer, so it became a four-wheel vehicle, and I'll explain all that in a bit. You can see we've got Land Rover tyres. On the foredeck we have a specially custom built bollard winch, and this is to assist with self-retrieval when it becomes bogged down. How did this work? Well, let me just go into a bit more detail. Hang on a minute. We've got a roller bar assembly in front of the bollard winch, and the bollard winch was driven by a drive belt from the engine crank. The belts come through here onto this pulley, driving a shaft, and you see there's a worm and crown wheel in there. Don't know if you can see it, but that's what it is. And the bollard revolves, and just like a capstan on a dockside or on the foredeck of a ship, you just coil the rope round it once or twice and then put a bit of tension in the tail side, and it cinches up and grips and you know, just works beautifully as a haul me in kind of thing. And you keep pulling the slack as it's pulling itself out of boggy ground or whatever the issue is, steep gradient maybe. And of course the roller bar assembly keeps the rope feeding onto the right part of the drum. You see where this flare and radius is. Alright, and this here is just a top steady, you know, on a spring to provide, let's say, 10 kilograms of back force there, which when you work it out with the moment, you know, 10 kilograms at that much equates to 100 kilograms at that, you know, with regard to the bending moment, or alleviating the bending moment, should I say. So there's that going on. The two shafts, because we've got the drive shaft and the vertical shaft, both were made by our resident lathe smith, so thank you very much for that. And the chassis here was fabricated by ourselves. Just let this tractor go by again. Specifically tailored, custom built if you like, to suit the foredeck, which is a cast iron bed plate, the original there, and that's to give the whole tractor mass, I imagine, was what they were thinking, you know, so it'd grip on the grass and pull lawn tractors, etc. This assembly here was so the belt would run loose, so it wouldn't turn this until you depressed that lever arm, and then this pulley would come in, induce or take up the slack on the belt, and it would grip and drive. Do you see what I mean? So I think I'll turn this round so we, oh yes, look, let's just record all this. We have a lamp on the foredeck. Obviously that's tight at the moment, but obviously that's meant to point forward, and that took power from the you know, the lighting coils. We see here it's a mag engine. It's a side valve 4-stroke petrol engine. I can't remember now. And there's mag again. I think it was something like 450cc or something as a single. It says Petter up there, so you know there's bits and bobs from different manufacturers has been combined to make this unit. So there we are. I'll turn it round so we can get good lighting on the rear of the assembly. Oh look what's going on here. Yes, this is the drive mechanism, the original. It's got a sort of like a centrifugal clutch, but we've put belt guards on, obviously for safety, and in fact same too with the it's got a bit mangled somehow. An accident has happened. That's about as close as I can get it now. There's obviously been an incident, it's been trod on or something, but this was all guarded up as well. You can see this stay bolted down to there, this custom bespoke piece fitted there, and the whole thing, you know, was just to keep fingers out of belts for safety. And this here was a tension device, so if you had the you know, you were driving the bollard winch, then the spring would just maintain the tension as you concentrated on managing the tail rope. Alright, I'll turn it round, we'll have a look at the rear of the assembly. Here we are again. Now we're looking at the aft side of the assembly. Where do we start? I don't know really. Well, let's just have a look at the bollard assembly from the rear. You know, the bollard winch. And here we are. Side valve 4-stroke petrol engine. Exhaust air cleaner. This handlebar assembly is original, but pretty much everything else, with a few exceptions, is bespoke. So what do we have? Yes, the steering wheel. So this is a tailor-made cross rail here to hold a plumber block. The steering shaft comes down to this collar assembly with a sprocket, and from here we had a chain which went to the trailer, because this drew a trailer. Sorry, the chain went round the sprocket, round these pulleys, and you see how they articulate up and down, and then the chain would come back to the trailer. On both sides, an endless chain, endless, but you know what I mean. And thus it was tiller steered. So the trailer drawbar was sleeved onto this, again, custom made by our lathe smith, and probably a bit of forging in there as well, and welded, and the bottom bar custom. This assembly is custom fitted to the cast iron original bed of the SISIS in order to facilitate all this gubbins going on. Yeah, so you would simply steer the SISIS. You were sat on the trailer, not the tail board but the front board, and you'd steer the trailer. What we have here is, which one was it? No, I can see that the right hand side one goes to the carb, so that was the throttle. You could throttle up, and you see this little notch plate made out of a bit of flat bar, radiused and just filed to give it, you know, notch détente. And on this side, I think it was the diff lock, if I recall, and again that had a certain position where it engaged, so there's a détente sneck there to keep it in diff lock if that's what you wanted. Otherwise it was in non-diff lock mode, which meant, you know, it just was better on the steering. Sometimes you need to lock both wheels, of course, because one would be scrabbling in mud and the other would be doing nout. Here, this is the original handbrake or parking brake, and here again, I think that's original. No, it isn't. It looks like we've tailor-made that. There must have been some other mechanism and we've tailor-made this, but that was a forward and reverse. That's forward and reverse. So yeah, I mean everything's a bit sort of seized up and or rusted and tight now, but everything used to work, you know. Diff lock, throttle, brum brum, you know. Manual choke somewhere on the machine, of course. So that's that. And the decision has been taken to let this go to a new keeper. So I just wanted to record for posterity all the particulars of what we once had, because it did serve us well at certain remote sites where we had a trailer load of equipment and materials to transport across the fell for, you know, digs and repair, ongoing maintenance of mine projects, and that's that. So I'm going to remove the bollard winch because I think it's a good little bit of engineering and I want to keep it for posterity, really, you know. So that's that. The SISIS, again, it's not your ordinary common or garden SISIS. This is the Overland Expedition or Overland Edition. You know, the engine isn't souped up or modified anyway, but the the chassis and all the fitments are, you know, all handcrafted, blacksmith made, you might say, you know, and with, of course, the turned items being bespoke also by our in-house machinist. Excellent. Caboodle. Alright then, that's that. Right, there it is with the bollard winch dismounted. The SISIS now is back in sort of commuter mode or school run. It's lost its all-terrain capabilities, or to some extent. So here's the bollard winch. As you can see, fabricated chassis to, you know, make the assembly work. Everything. Note, all the bearings have grease nipples. I think was it brass or phosphor bronze bushings in there, you know. It was all made for the long term, I tell you, it really was. There we're having a look at it, and you know, to anyone you'd think, look at it, yeah, it's a bit of metal that is, mate, but when you start to ponder all the bespoke attributes that it needs to fit and work and do the job, you know. Same too with this roller assembly. You can see how the bar has been twisted to go from that orientation to the flat where it landed on the foredeck, with a bracing bracket, you know. The rollers made, I can't recall exactly now, but probably a bit of pipe with another bit bar down the middle, and again turned by our machinist, in-house machinist Star, to operate as a simple bearing, just, you know, steel revolving in steel, but with grease, of course, because this isn't permanently revolving. It's only when, on those occasions when you do a haul me out or a lifting operation, of course, you know, you could conceivably have a rope going through this, from this through the roller, and then going up to a pulley sheave and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's enough of that. It's been sort of stripped down to some extent, and I wanted to record and keep these pieces just because of the engineering content they represent. Okay.